After being the fourth worst team in all of baseball last year, the Red Sox are poised to win the division this year and move on as division leaders in the playoffs. Their all-star left side of the infield, Bogarts and Devers, has helped power their offense along with J.D. Martinez this year. Pitching has certainly been a weak point for them this year, but Chris Sale might come back soon. Matt Barnes has also been a lights-out reliever for them. I think they will be a 90-plus win team, and they will win the American League East. The Toronto Blue Jays are my pick to come second in the AL East. They have one of the best offenses in all of baseball. It's headed by all-star left fielder Teoscar Hernandez, all-star second baseman Marcus Semien, and all-star first baseman Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Vlad is on pace to possibly win the Triple Crown if he can overcome Shohei Ohtani in home runs this year. Pitching has certainly been a weak point, especially with the bullpen. They've had to change closers way too many times this year. I picked the Blue Jays to be a low 90s win team and make the wild card. The reigning American League pennant winners have been a very streaky team this year. I don't think they will repeat their World Series run from last year or even make the playoffs. They have a pretty solid offense and pretty good pitching. They, of course, have an amazing bullpen with what the Rays have been able to do with their franchise at all times. Randy Arozarena has not played up to what we thought maybe his potential could be based on last year's postseason. And Tyler Glasnow was dominant but is now injured, which will certainly hurt the team. Also, after a stellar debut, Wander Franco has not performed up to what was expected. I picked the Rays to finish third in the division, win around 85 games, and miss the playoffs, unfortunately. The Yankees have really not had that good of a season. Giancarlo Stanton had a couple hot weeks, but has been hurt most of the rest of the year. Gleyber Torres seems to have forgotten how to hit a home run. And Garrett Cole is really the only solid pitcher they have consistently. The Yankees have just not performed how you would have expected them to based on the all-star caliber players that they have on their team. The bullpen has underperformed a lot, with Aroldis Chapman having a really tough season after a great start. I picked the Yankees to be a fourth-place team and win an upper 70s to low 80s amount of games. The Orioles are having a really rough season. They will get another high draft pick next year because they'll be a bottom 5 team this year. They've had two bright spots, though. John Means, who threw a no-hitter, and Cedric Mullins, who's having an all-star season and will be a top 10 MVP vote guy by the end of the year if he keeps this up. I predict that the Orioles will come last in the AL East and will be a 65-win team. The White Sox are a really solid team with a great lineup, a great bullpen, and a great starting rotation. Their solid rotation is headed by Rodon, Lynn, Giolito, Cease, and Keuchel. And I think that they might be a World Series team. Mid-90s wins, and they will easily finish in first place in the AL Central. The Indians this year have really been taking advantage of the weak division that they play in. Eddie Rosario was a nice off-season trade. Jose Ramirez has been an all-star this year, along with Shane Bieber being one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. They're a good low 80s win team that I don't think will make the playoffs and finish second in the AL Central. The Twins have had a brutal first half and are looking to have a second half bounce back. If they have a second half bounce back, that would put them in a good position to finish third, ahead of only the Tigers and the Royals. I predict that the Twins will probably be a upper 70s win team and third in the AL Central. The Tigers have had some flashes of good performances from their young arms such as Casey Mize and Tarek Skubal. Their lineup has been fairly weak, but has had free agent signing Robbie Grossman producing a lot of walks at the top. This team is certainly poised to have good years in the future, but this year will probably not be their year, and they'll finish fourth in the AL Central with low 70s to mid 70s amount of wins, which will be quite impressive for such a weak payroll. The Royals, after a strong start, have certainly slowed down. Salvador Perez has been one of the few bright spots for this fairly weak team. Their pitching has not been very good, and the young arms have not been doing all too well. The Royals have a good farm system and should look to be good in the future, but this year is not their year. I predict them to be a mid to high 60s win team that finishes 5th and last in one of the weakest divisions in baseball. Say what you want about the cheating, but this Houston Astros team is still really good. That's probably the best lineup in baseball, and they're just waiting for the postseason time to really mash. The Astros pitching rotation may look weak to not that in-depth of a baseball fan, but when you look at the numbers, they are having a really good season. Luis Garcia and Framber Valdez in particular. I predict them to win 95 to 100 games, make the playoffs, and be the number 1 team in the AL West. The A's had one of the worst starts to any season in baseball ever, but since then, they've really rebounded. Pitchers like James Kaprielian and Chris Bassett have had solid seasons, and although Matt Chapman is having an off-season, Matt Olson is certainly picking up the slack, along with Ramon Laureano. Olson is having an MVP caliber season. The A's will certainly look to be a wild card team or try and win the division over the Astros, which would be really tough. But I predict them to be a low 90s team that makes the wild card. The Angels have really been the story of the season player this year. And unlike it was maybe expected, it's not Mike Trout. It's this man, Shohei Ohtani, the two-way sensation, pitching at a fairly good level and hitting at an elite level for power. Unfortunately, Ohtani can't do it all, and their pitching has been very weak. I predict the Angels to be a mid-70s win team and finish 3rd in the AL West. The Seattle Mariners have had a real surprise season this year. They've been playing very good baseball. Unfortunately, their team doesn't have very many strong points, which, in my opinion, will be sure to make them slide down later in the year. I think that they will be a low 70s win team to a mid 70s win team, may even finish ahead of the Angels, but I have them as the 4th best team in the AL West. The Texas Rangers have really been a superstar-laden team. All they really have is a Cy Young caliber pitcher in Kyle Gibson and an elite power bat in Joey Gallo. Unfortunately, both of them will probably get moved by the trade line, leaving this team as a pretty solid prospect team, but a very, very weak team at the major league level. I predict the Rangers to finish with high 50s to low 60s amount of wins and finish 5th in the AL West. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, and let us know you subscribed in the comments.